feel like Kobe 24, you know I had to ice my wrist. I've been ballin' since a young, you know I had to stack my chips. Bending corners, 12 personas, know we had to take them risks. You wanna spot and take a shot, don't give a fuck about no miss. We in the field, but I'm in the end zone, no I can't lie. Good as a friend, but she and her friends don't look at the score. I'm sorry, little brother, you know you can't win. Like a knockout.
Alright, gym workout complete, and now to talk about the finance part of this video. So what I wanted to speak to you about today was about a recent experience I faced while trying to further my property portfolio, which really reminded me of my time whilst working in private equity. So to set the scene, last week I was looking for properties on Rightmove and found one that looked really promising. It was a nice 3-bedroom property, had multiple bathrooms, and was in a pretty similar part of Leicester to where we'd invested in last time. So we knew the area. So the next day we go to auction, and my dad and I have told ourselves that we're going to be willing to bid anywhere between £160,000 to £170,000. The winning bid ended up being a whole £51,000 higher than what we'd been willing to. So we lost to a winning bid of £221,000. And so this made me ask myself the question, how did we lose by such a margin? And it really reminded me of a few learnings that were taught to me when I was in private equity that I want to share to you. But before we do, we've actually got another property viewing to go and check out. So come and jump along with me so we go and see that. So this house is a little bit smaller than our previous property investment, but it is in a better location, I'd say. There's like a GP, it's in a bit more urban area. The guide price is 175k, which is probably underselling it. It is going to auction, so it's probably going to be a similar tactic to what we experienced last week, with the guide prices being massively under what the actual expectation is. So what did you think, Bah?
Nice house, I don't need to do much work.
It's quite nice, it's quite spacious.
If you can do HMO itself, you buy it and get HMO license, you can rent it for 4 people.
Viewing now complete, and back to the main teaching of this video, which is when you lose a deal, it's normally because of 2, maybe 2.5 factors. So the first factor is return. So when my dad and I went and took a look at that property last week, we estimated things like the rental value, how much the refurb would have cost, and also what the value uplift would have been once that refurb was done. The other thing that we would have taken into account was what our percentage or numerical return would be. So let's say we needed a 20% return off this deal, or we wanted to make at least 30 grand off this deal. Now the issue is that there could be someone else out there who has the exact same assumptions as you in terms of rent, the cost of the refurb, and the value uplift. But if the return that they require, or the return that they'd be satisfied with, is just 10%, then that enables them to bid so much more on the same property as you. The second factor is risk, and this is kind of the flip side of factor number 1, which is return. So for the same property that my dad and I viewed, there could be someone else out there in the market who has far more risky or more aggressive assumptions. For example, they could have assumed that they'd get much more rent on the property, or they could assume much lower refurb costs, or much higher value uplift after the refurb. And so as a result, even if they were targeting the exact same 20% return as my dad and I, because they had more aggressive assumptions, they'd also be able to bid a higher starting price as well. And so again, that is another potential avenue for you to lose out on a deal. The final 0.5 assumption that I referred to before is kind of the purpose of the deal. So my dad and I were looking at this house purely from a financial perspective, what return would be able to make on this investment. However, there will be other people who are looking at it from a non-financial lens. That is a strategic lens. That's the word we'd use in private equity. So for these buyers, they don't care as much about the return they make. Sometimes they don't care at all about the level of return they make because they have other purposes for their investment. So from the case of private equity, it could be that it's a competitor and they want to acquire the management team, or they want to acquire some of the intellectual property. So they are able to price in things that a normal financial buyer would not be able to account for. In the case of this property had a few really unique things going about it. The first is that it was about a 2-minute walk from the local mosque. So using just that as an example, for someone who follows the Islamic faith, they may have been willing to pay a premium for that property just so that they were able to be close to the mosque if they were particularly religious and wanted to pray 5 times a day at the mosque. And ignore me, I'm now just pacing around the garden because I've run out of shots. But for these sorts of people, they have a premium to that property that myself and my dad as a financial buyer would not be able to account for or not be placed value on. So that kind of concludes today's video. It was just a very short one, a bit rambly. I'm trying to switch styles a little bit more into the vlogging style. If you did enjoy it, do let me know and I'll carry on. Just kind of posting my observations, my thoughts, and if there are any things where I can draw similarities from my professional experience, I will do so. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and let me know what else you'd like me to kind of talk about, if at all you found this video useful. All right, thanks guys, and see you soon.